Hello and welcome to the webinar Commissioning and First Steps with the CX7000. My name is Fabian Apelmeier and I'm working at the Product Marketing CX. If you have questions during the webinar, don't hesitate to use the question window. At the end of the webinar, we try to answer as many as possible. This webinar consists of two parts. In the first part, I talk about basics, functions, and futures. And in the second part, I want to show you the CX7000 working in TwinCAT 3. At the beginning, I want to mention a few technical data of the CX7000. It has a 480 MHz ARM processor, and the CX is currently in two variants available, with additional field bus interface and without. The additional field bus interface which is available in the moment is the RS232.5. Further interfaces are planned, like EtherCAT slave, CAN, Profibus, and second Ethernet switch port. On the system runs a TC operating system, and it will be developed in TwinCAT 3. As default, the CX has 8 digital inputs and 4 digital outputs. These are configurable in a counter, in an encoder, in analog inputs, and in pulse width modulated outputs. Furthermore, the CX has a 4 kilobyte NOFRAM memory. The CX7000 is open for many different applications. You can use it in combination with the EtherCAT plug-in modules of the EJ series, and also it's possible, like just like other CXs, to add on the right side K-bus terminals and EtherCAT terminals, like safety, motion, and gateway terminals. At the gateway terminals, I would like to mention that we advise not to use more than 2, because if you use more than 2, the process data communication will be too big. The TwinCAT functions which are available are already just like the TwinCAT 3 runtime license, and they are direct located on the CX. So it's not possible to add other or more TC functions on the CX. The power supply splits into US and UP. These are galvanically separated from each other. US supplies the CPU, the E-bus or K-bus, and the interfaces USB, Ethernet, and if present, the additional field bus interface. UP supplies the onboard IOs, which has an own CPU and the power contacts. On this slide, we see the front view of the CX and a kind of a contact plan. Below the USB interface, we see the Ethernet interface, which is used for the development in TwinCAT 3. And below this black cap is the micro SD card. The black cap is movable up and down because of the size of the contacts, which are the same size as the HD terminals. We advise to use a screwdriver of the type ZB7801 because this one is specially designed for this size. The contact diagram shows on which input or output what can be configured. For example, on the output 3, you can configure a digital output on output for the PWM mode. Another example, on input 2, you can configure a digital input, an input for the counter mode, or an input for the encoder mode. When the CX7000 is scanned in TwinCAT 3, you have the following view. The CX7000 as device and the CX7028 as participant behaves like an EtherCAT device. This means same dialects and same mechanisms, like the EtherCAT state machine, for example. Also, the CX7000 has its own NetID and own port, which can be used, for example, for the COE communication. The configuration of the onboard IOs is done by slots and modules. Total, we have 4 slots. One slot contains up to 3 modules, which can be configured according to the application or according to the request. A second time technical data, this time to the onboard errors. In the counter and encoder mode is the counter depth of the counter 32-bit. In addition to the automatic digital output, in the encoder mode, other as in the counter mode, has an latch input. The analog inputs measures a voltage of 0 to 10 volts in a resolution of 12-bit, and the measure results will be presented in 16-bit. In the PWM mode, a PWM signal between 15 Hz and 100 kHz can be output via two 16-bit values. The first of the four slots contains, besides of the default configuration, the counter mode and the encoder mode. If you want to change the current module of the slot, you have to remove it. You have to click it first, and then you remove it via the X button, and then you have to click your wish module, and then you have to add it via the arrow button. In the encoder mode, the third input is also available as a latch or for resetting the counter. Otherwise, the input 3 is a normal digital input. The counter mode makes it possible to count 24-volt pulses on the inputs 1 and 2. The pulse is detected at input 1, and the counting direction is specified at input 2. Further, it is possible to set the counter to a certain value via the process data. Also, you can reload the counter to 0 if it reaches a via CUE set value. Furthermore, you can set a digital output automatically via threshold, which can be set via process data. The encoder mode works with a 4-fold evaluation. That means the positive and the negative edge on both inputs will be detected. The range of functions of the encoder mode corresponds to the counter mode. In addition to the counter value, can be latched via input 3. This means with a positive edge at the latch input, the current counter value is written into the process data. In addition, there is a software gate via which you can lock the counter, and so it keeps the counter value. The second slot has got beside the default configuration the PWM module. This makes it possible to output a digital signal pulse wide modulated on the outputs 3 and 4. The PWM signal is split into duty cycle and period length. The smallest period length is 10 microseconds, which are 100 kilohertz, and the longest period length is about 65 milliseconds, and this corresponds about 15 hertz. The third slot contains only 2 digital inputs, so nothing else can be configured. In the fourth and last slot, you can instead of the default configuration configure the analog inputs 0 to 10 volts on the inputs 7 and 8. For the digital inputs on the inputs 3, 4, 5, and 6, it is possible to add an individual filter time. 1 microseconds corresponds to 1 digit. The filter time can be set in steps of 100 microseconds. See the example below on the left side. In addition to the set filter time, there is a jitter of approximately 100 microseconds. In general, it is good to know which possibilities you have to change the settings of the network interface. First, you have to know if the DSIP is active or inactive. If active, the IP address is assigned. If inactive, a local IP address is used. There are several ways to make settings on the network interface. One way can be the device manager, which can be opened via TwinCAT or via web interface. The username at the login is always administrator. This is fixed and it's not changeable. The password is in factory settings 1. If you want to open the device manager via the web interface, you need to put the CX name or the IP address /config in the search line, and then the device manager should open. Another way to change the network interface settings is the TC PC and the libraries MDP and IPCDAC. One more possibility to change the settings is the SD card of CCX. For this, a SD card reader is needed. To change the settings, you need to open the file boot.conf in the folder etc. In the opened window, you can view the settings and change the settings. You can view, for example, the CX name, the IP address, and change the settings. You can change the subnet mask, gateway, and DNS. Also, you can store the password to 1 if this is necessary. Therefore, you have to delete the file device and restart the CX with the SD card. Now to the second part of the webinar. I've already opened the device manager. Via the device manager, you can get a lot of information. For example, the CX name or the device manager version or information about the CPU or memory. Further, you can restart your CX. Via the rubric hardware, you can get information about the mainboard and about the BIOS, and you can change the settings of the network interface. Via the heading software, you get information about the operating system, and you can change settings of date and time. Via TwinCAT, you get information about the TwinCAT version of the CX and information about the TwinCAT memory. Further, you can add and remove TwinCAT routes. Via security, you can change the password of the CX. Next, I want to change the network settings. So I set the DHCP to inactive and change the IP address. Save these settings via the checkbox. And next, I want to change the password. Now it's impossible to try to log on with the default password 1. So I want to change the settings back via the SD card. So I power off the supply and put the SD card into a SD card reader. In the folder etc, I open the file boot.conf. In the opened window, we can view all the network interface settings. For example, DHCP, the IP address, subnet mask, gateway, and DNS. I changed the DHCP back to active. So it's not necessary to adjust the IP. Next, by deleting the file device. I restore the password of the CX back to the default value 1. After putting back the SD card into the CX and power on the CX, we can log in to the device manager again with the password 1. Next, I scan the hardware of the CX. There are 4 devices found: NOFRAM, the CX with the additional onboard IOs, and the additional FreeBus interface. Because the CX behaves like a EtherCAT device, we have the same dialects and same mechanisms. So also we have a tab online. This tab we can do a firmware download for the onboard IOs if it is necessary. The procedure is the same as on the other EtherCAT slaves. First, we set the EtherCAT slave or the CX7000 in init, then to boot. After that, we check the current state, and then we can download the firmware for the CX. This can take a moment. After the firmware downloaded is successful, we can set the CX back to OP. At the moment, the default configuration, digital inputs and outputs are configured. We will change the first and the second slot. So I remove the current module in the first slot by clicking the module and remove it via the X button, and add the counter module by clicking the arrow button. In the second slot, we configure the PWM module, and after reload, the settings are done. Now we will have a look at the CUI objects, especially to the counter settings. The enable reload is true, and the counter reload value is 1000. We change this to 500. So if the counter value reaches the value 500, the counter value will reload to 0. I've prepared something in the main. I've created some variables. The PWM out is the duty cycle of the PWM module, and the PWM period is a period length. I've set it up this to 50% and 10 milliseconds. And next we will link them to the hardware. Further, I've done a shortcut between the out of the PWM output and to the counter input. So the counter module will count the PWM signal. So okay, we have a look at the process data, and when the counter value reaches 500, it will back to 0. Further, I've prepared something in the main. I've I'm getting information about via MDP and via IPCDIAC about the TwinCAT level and the CX name and further the IP address, for example. Furthermore, I've created a retain variable with the CX power off and power on. The value will be the same before the power off. Therefore, we need a retain handler at the NOFRAM device. And after a rebuild of the TwinCAT solution, the link between the software and hardware will be set automatically. And if it is not set, we have to set this to the retain handler on the tab data area. After a reactivate configuration, I set a value to the retain counter by using the if condition. So now the value is 236, and now I power off the CX and power on it again. And after I restart in TwinCAT, the value should be the same. I restart TwinCAT in run mode, log in again, and here we are with the same value. Last, I would like to mention 2 ways to optimize the TwinCAT project on the CX. The first method is to optimize the TwinCAT memory. The TwinCAT memory contains the router memory and the TwinCAT application. The router memory is in TwinCAT projects per default 32 MB, but this is too much for the CX7000, so it's set to the maximum of 9 MB. This means per default are 10 MB for the application like BDC, data, mapping, and so on. Normally 1 to 4 MB is enough for the router memory, so we advise to set this up. And therefore, is more memory for the application. The second method is to increase the cycle time of the I/O idle task to 10 milliseconds. The I/O idle task is necessary for the background processing. It handles the SD access, the USB interface, the Ethernet interface, and the communication to the operating system. Here, 10 milliseconds is sufficient for the CX7000 since the CPU load is only unnecessarily high with 1 millisecond. Thank you for your attention. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to use the question window. We try to answer as many as possible.
So my name is Ralf Finken. Thank you, Fabian, for your presentation. I will try to answer now your questions. So the first question is, when can we get a CX7000? You can order actual the CX7000. We will release it next month, but we have a so big income order that we started directly with 4, perhaps 6 weeks delivery time. So end of June, we start with the release version. And when you order now, I think you get it then in August. Then is the other questions. Can you show me the function which are included from the TwinCAT 3 functions. Fabian, is this possible that we can show it again? We are searching. We come back to us. So another question is, can encoder function, oh, wait a moment. It's come too many questions. Oh, a moment. Encoder function by using NC. NC is not a part, or NC or NC PTP is not a part of the CX7000. So you cannot use the TwinCAT 3 PTP or NC functions. How manage real-time load? Looks much with simple logic. The real-time load, yes, you can measure the real-time load like the other CXs, and you see which performance do you have. You see the exceed counter when you are over the limit. And so you can see is the PLC working in real-time or not. How much real-time load can be used? Yeah, this is a question. You have to try it, yes. How many PLC code you can use on the CX7000. This presentation, we give this also later as a video file so that you can read it, look again, the presentation. Will there an option to have MQTT on the CX7000? Perhaps. It is not the end of the development from the CX7000. This is the start of the CX7000. So we have not implemented everything what is possible in TwinCAT. So we have to look which function are possible to use. MQTT perhaps, but it's on the roadmap, not in the first option what we implemented. The next one is TCP/IP server and Modbus TCP and perhaps MQTT. We have to look how many memory we have and so on. And this is an decision which is coming later. For which application was the CX created? Yes, for small application, yes. It's giving a lot of application where you don't need very fast cycle times or big CPU load or so. You can use it for your sauna to control this or to control something with the motion terminals, with the safety terminals. We have not a typical application. So we have to search which application is for the CX7000 the right one. What is the minimum PLC cycle time is the question. That is dependent which bus system or which terminals do you use. If you use K-bus terminals, so I would say the typical cycle times are 5 milliseconds or longer, because the cycle time from the K-bus is also a little bit longer. When you use EtherCAT terminals, then I would say 2 milliseconds is so the minimum. And if you want to control only the onboard IOs, that is possible to use here also cycle time down to 500 microseconds. That's because the onboard IOs goes and faster as an EtherCAT master. EtherCAT master is a little bit more complex. The next question, XML server, IoT. XML, I think no. There's no way because it's need additional software tools and so on. This is within small controller and with this operating system not possible. IoT, perhaps. Do we get the displayed license installed by default? Yes, the license are installed by default. You cannot change it. You cannot edit. So you get it for free, yes, but it's included the price, yes, and it's not necessary to make it a TwinCAT 3 license. So it's giving not a handling with TwinCAT 3 license. So it's also possible that you can put out the micro SD card with your boot project with everything on board and copy this on your PC and copy this on the other micro SD card, and you can put it in every CX7000 again, yes, and it's running without any license handling. Next question. Is the operating system PLC node? Yes, this is what I say. The question is, can I put it from a broken CX7000 in another CX7000? When the SD card is okay, then you can do that. That is no problem. That's because we have no license handling, yes, in such. So the license is on board and it is everything by when the type of the CX7000 is the same, then you can use it. You cannot put the from the CX7000 in a CX7080. This is not possible. But when you are in the same type of devices, also CX7000 to CX7000, then it's no problem. And it's the questions, the license like TF6255. I don't know in the moment what it is for a license. When it's implemented, then yes. If it's not, then you cannot use it. So the CX7, the question is CX7000 based on TC-BSD? No, this is TwinCAT AirTOS because TwinCAT BSD is running only at the moment on a bigger CPU like Atom processors and not on this small controller. So the controller which we use, there is no BSD possible to use. So that's the reason that we use here the free AirTOS. And yeah, what I say, free AirTOS is a little bit more like a firmware version. You cannot add some external software on the CX7000. You can only use what we implemented in TwinCAT, not less. Is EtherCAT distributed clock support from the CX7000? Not in the moment. In the moment, the CX7000 has too bigger jitter to handle distributed clocks. So it's not possible to use in the moment distributed clock terminals. We will try to optimize the operating system and the jitter, but in the moment, not clear, it is open that we can also use distributed clocks inside the terminal. I would say in the moment, and I would say also in the future not, but we will try it, and when then is coming with an update. PLC HMI is not available for the small controller. That's true. We have no web access also from the CX7000, so you cannot use external or web services for the CX7000. Then the other question, can we put an order for CX7000 today? No, this is no problem. You can order it today, but when you not say that you want to have a prototype, then you get the release version. And what I say is it's possible that you get then the release version, so end of July or beginning with August when you order now. Seems OEM license not possible. What do you mean with OEM license? Web HMI possible? No, it's not possible. Next question is, can we use C++ modules? No, also this is not possible. You can only use the normal PLC code. Next question is, can we use OPC UA on the CX7000? Also, this is not possible. Sorry that I must say that. But this is also an external tool, what is running on bigger operating system, but not on the CX7000. Perhaps in the future, but I would say not in the next 1 or 2 years. Because for this one, we need a complete new OPC UA version, and we cannot use this OPC UA version, what we use in the moment. This is a complete new development. So I think I have answered all questions. OEM license possible to create own license manager to protect copy. Yeah, no, that's not possible. In principle, it's possible that you can generate own license management, but I think this feature not implemented yet. What we plan to implement it is that you have possible that you we have on the CX7000 manufacturer or customer specific data block, which you can write it in the EEPROM from the CX7000 direct on the hardware. So here you can write your own string or whatever. And when you see that's not a CX which is coming from you, then you can read out and stop the PLC program. So that's a chance what you have to protect your CX7000. How IDS performance for third-party devices? This is no problem. Some customer do that with other third-party HMI devices. They support ADS, and with this third-party devices, HMIs, you can work with the CX7000. This is no problem. The next question is AI server run on the control panel, standard EPC connected to the CX7000 as a second master, which additional licenses CP. What you can do is that you have a bigger CPU which supports the HMI and takes the data via ADS from the CX7000 and control then the bigger CPU with the HMI. This is also possible. Can we create files from the PLC program? What do you mean with? What you can do is that you can from the PLC some text files or CVS files or so for Excel or so to save this data on the micro SD card or on the USB stick. So we have a USB master port where you can connect it only a stick, and you can use then the stick as memory. How many temperature controller zones can be handled? Oh, a good question. I don't know. I would say 20, 25, 50. it's dependent of your cycle time in the PLC. If you have a longer PLC cycle time, temperature control is not so fast in the most cases. So that you have to try it. But I would say this is not a big problem for the CX7000. CX7000 has also a floating point unit on it. So you can work with long real variable, use long real variable, not normal real variable. By real variable, he has to convert it to a long real variable, that in floating point unit and back to long real variable and back to the real variable, and this costs time. So write your code directly in long real variable. There's no problem. So other questions? No other questions? I hope I have not forgotten something. Then it's coming the question, is also an analog output possible? Not with this hardware. Then we have to change the hardware. But principle is also the onboard IOs one of the modules. So when you have enough potential and enough pieces which you want to buy, we can also change the onboard IOs with other IOs. Yes, that's principle possible, and the structure of the program and the structure internal allows this, but it's need a new hardware. Can you show us the optional interfaces? When you mean the interfaces on the left side, in the moment we have non-additional field bus interface. This is the CX7000, or with RS232 or 5. This is the CX7018. In the end of the year or beginning with the next year, we add Profibus and CAN, and then come the next interfaces with Ethernet, and here with Profinet and with Ethernet IP. Okay. Other questions? Okay, when there's coming the next questions. Yes, also as EtherCAT slave interface. The question is it also available as EtherCAT slave interface? It's coming also. Yes, of course. This is the CX7010. This is coming then also. It's coming step by step. Can we use network variable with the Ethernet real-time port? No, this is not working. For this, we have then the CX7090, where we have a switch port on it. And here we will also support EtherCAT automation protocol and real-time Ethernet, but not on the normal CX7000. On the Ethernet port which we have is for non-real-time communication and not for real-time communication. CX7080 is the questions. RS232, RS485 access as virtual COM device. Virtual COM device is also necessary if you have an external software, but it's not allowed to, or it's not possible that you have an external software on it. So no, the question is no, and this makes also no sense. Yes, because you cannot add a second software tool on the CX7000. So you can only handle it via the PLC. But here you can use Modbus RTU library, the Modbus, the normal COM port library, and you can add your own serial protocol when you want. That is no problem. Possibility of TCP/IP. This is what I say. This is coming in the next software version. Is coming not with the released version. So we are planning to add also other features. It's coming then with a software update. So I would say end of the year or so that we add also here additional functions. Which function we implemented can I not say in the moment, but TCP/IP and Modbus TCP is one of the important things which we will add on the CX7000. Yes, and also here it's giving the question, is the license then included for TCP/IP? Yes, this is the aim from the CX7000 that all licenses are every time available on the CX7000 directly. Will the CX7000 support ADS communication? Yes, the CX7000 support ADS communication and only ADS communication. Next question, can we update software in the future for new coming features? Yes, that's the aim. Yes, when we add new features, you get a new image and you can copy the new image on the SD card and then you have directly with the license also the new features. So that you get then for free, so no additional cost. It is only necessary that you update your CX7000. So we begin now with the CX7000 and with the release, this is not the end of the development. Yes, this is the first step so that we can go on the markets. You can work with it and we add from time to time then new features. And then we will also inform you or give this on the internet platform that we add here some new features that you can download it then from the FTP file, the image, for example, with the new features and with the new description, what we have to add, what we have added. So any new questions? Okay. So no new questions, then I will say thank you, Fabian, for your presentation, and thank you all for listening. And if you order the CX7000, I think you get a lot of features for a very low price CPU. So remember what you pay and what you get for your money. Yes, and I think yes, colleagues say Pox cannot fly. Yes, but we have implemented a lot of things in the device and not the end of the development. And we have a lot of requests and a lot of orders. And I think this is really a good product. This is very small. It's the combination with EtherCAT is very cool because you can add also other EtherCAT mass devices like frequency converter from other companies like from us. Yes, you are very open and very flexible what you can do with these devices. So I think you have many fun with this small controller. Yeah, thank you. And yes, perhaps we see us in one of the next fairs in the future, and we hope that Corona is then not more. And then I would say thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.